All right. Welcome back to the podcast. Sorry I didn't record last night. I was talking with a friend, and catching up takes a while. So I could only kind of do one thing. Went to the gym. So this is going to be another episode about the Crow Reservation. Just getting into my notes here. Okay, so we've already talked about the Crow Reservation in Montana. The areas that were shown in the episode, Peter Santinello's episode. And we've talked about the traditions. We're going to talk about hunting and food that was mentioned. So when it comes to hunting and food, there was a bit of part of a clip where somebody was seen along the side of a road kind of carrying a shotgun. They mentioned duck hunting, white-tailed deer, a lot of other animals that are hunted. There's kind of some controversy about non-natives hunting on native land, and so it kind of goes to the issues with people who are actually residents, who are tribal residents versus non-tribal residents, and permits being issued on tribal lands to non-tribal people. And so there's some controversy over this. So there's some issues about tribal Crow lands being leased, possibly by the BIA, to non-tribal members. And the lands that are being leased, they used to be lands that, tribal people were allowed to hunt on. But because non-tribal people are leasing them out, they allow non-tribal people to hunt on that tribal land. It says that, for that reason, sometimes Crow people are banned from actually hunting on some of their traditional lands due to the landowners, the non-tribal landowners not allowing them on that property that's being leased by those non-tribal people. So they mentioned that the BIA or the BLM, not the BLM movement, but the BLM, it's kind of like a police, like, I don't know what they're actually considered. It's like, so the BIA, I'm trying to find where I wrote down what it stands for. Bureau of Land Management. So the BIA is Police Bureau of Indian Affairs, and then the BLM is Bureau of Land Management. But these are not necessarily Crow tribal people that are in these bureaus, and so it kind of affects how the land is being, given to people even still. And, Peter Santinello made a point, which was something I thought too, that I think I'm not the only one who thought this way, that, that reservation lands are, they're reserved specifically for specific tribal people. It's reserved land for those people to have their own laws, their own rules, but it seems like they're being governed still and manipulated still. And I just want to put this out there because it's like, if I didn't know, and I'm a person who studies multiple types of cultures on my own, like for fun, and I'm coming across all this information that's like, None of this is mainstream information, but it's going on like now. James was mentioning that it was recent. It was pretty recent that these lands were that the permits were starting to be given to non-tribal people. So they're allowed to hunt on the land. This is in Montana. So James mentions that historically buffalo were killed, and there was a workaround that the government made, saying that they allowed it due to these like large machinery needing these like these cotton gins and things needing like these leather bands because they were stronger. Like the buffalo hide leather bands were stronger than the ones they were using before. So that was the justification used to kill off the buffalo. And the buffalo were a big part of the Crow culture. And yeah, so because the non-tribal people are being allowed recently to hunt on the Crow Reservation, this is causing regulations by they're making regulations. There's an agency making regulations that allow Crow people to acquire a certain amount of food. So instead of them being able to just go and get whatever they need to sustain themselves, now there's more regulations, strict regulations, that now they can't just, fill their freezer or whatever. Like they're regulated now. They mentioned people can often barely afford food. Now, in the part of the episode where they mention the food, there's some pretty pricey food rates that I'll get to. People can barely afford food, they can barely afford rent, and they can barely afford utilities. And so hunting has been a way to supplement to be able to live off the land because that food is free. James mentions that, the Crow Reservation is a food desert. The closest grocery store to town is 12 miles away, and the grocery store that was in town burned down a few years ago. He didn't say what year, but he said a few years ago prior due to arson. And so the grocery stores, there's this branded grocery store called IGA. So there's one in the area of Montana called Hardin, and there's one in the area of Montana called Lodge Grass. And when they showed the prices of some of the food, so at the Lodge Grass IGA, for about 16 sausages, those small sausage links was $7. A gallon of milk was $8.30. Baloney for just like the probably about 4 inches of a package of bologna was $5.75. That's like processed bologna. One cantaloupe was $6. One banana was 80 cents. A bag of chips, like the size that you would buy, like not like the small little individual fun size packages, and not like the kind you'd buy at 7-Eleven packages, but the one that's like a little bigger, like the regular size bag of chips that you would bring like maybe to a barbecue, $4. They have choke cherries on the reservation. He mentioned that there's sun-dried choke cherries. Those can be rehydrated with water. There's cattle that, based on a vision that someone had, that there would be cattle all over in the land. There's a lot of cattle, and per tradition, food was made with protein, fat, and berries. But this is definitely an issue with the hunting and food situation, because if resources are already scarce, and now there's these extra allowances for non-tribal people to be coming onto the land, and for the people on the reservation to have restrictions of how they can hunt. This is a problem, in my opinion. It's like what are the Crow people supposed to do? It's like, I wouldn't be able to afford these prices, and when you looked at the store, like, if this is a major store, when you look at the store, there wasn't even like a lot available. Like, when you look at the store, it was like, how when you go to the meat section and there's like a lot of meat, there was not a lot of meat. There was not a lot of anything. There was a lot of stuff missing. And he says traditionally, they're pretty heavy meat eaters. And so that's a problem, and it's like, okay, there's no buffalo, you can't hunt a lot. There's a lot of stuff that you kind of just can't do. And so I don't even know. It's like, when it comes to these kind of things, it does make me wonder, I'm like, who's giving away the rights? Like, it might be like a money move on the part of tribal councils, which were set up by the U.S. government, but the tribal government that was set up by the U.S. government on the reservations. They might be the ones making the allowances for, all these different people to come on the land. I'm assuming that permits are going to cost money, and that money is going to go to somebody, but it's not like the whole tribe is like, sharing the money. I mean, these are big issues, and I see it as very problematic, especially considering that there aren't even really grocery stores near. Like, there's no grocery stores around. Really, I mean, 12 miles is far. Like, I'm thinking in LA, 12 miles is like even further from like the coast of maybe like Redondo Beach area inland to like Inglewood. That's about 10 miles, and that's about a 30-minute drive in the city. So I don't really know. It's yeah, I don't really know. But yeah, that's just kind of how it is, I guess. But I don't know. I think something should be done, or at least looked into. I don't know what that is, but at the very least, I'm like, I'd rather just put the information out there because I have a platform to speak. I don't live on a reservation. I don't know anybody who lives on the Crow reservation, but I mean, I do consider it a form of injustice. A lot of the things that were discussed in the video. But for now, thanks for listening.